Good evening. Since the dawn of time, guitarists have been looking for ways to get more gain out of their amplifiers. Some of those ways have been extremely creative, pushing the limits of the intellectual capability of the human mind. Some of those ways have been extremely, incredibly, ridiculously stupid. Like, so stupid. So stupid that you can't even fathom how stupid it would be. Like, really, really, really. And even though in today's modern age, there are plenty of amplifiers that deliver the molten, saturated high gain that guitarists crave, there are still individuals living amongst us with tiny brains, tiny egos, and crooked nostrils that want to find ways to take vintage voiced amplifiers and turn them into high gain, fire breathing monsters. So today, that's what we're gonna do. Let's do it! Alright guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, I'm feeling incredibly aggressive. My name is Kyle, and what I do is I take all sorts of awesome high gain related guitar equipment, record it with a simple setup, and I give you the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into E-stand or thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and dudes that just like making up wacky intros to their videos off the top of their head, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on your way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks! Alright guys, so today we are exploring a subject that is one that I have actually loved pretty much since I started playing guitar, or really since I started getting into gear. Wow, that was a horrible sentence. Much like I talked about in the intro of this video, in today's modern age, in 2024, there are tons and tons of amplifiers that deliver the gain and the tightness and the saturation that you need straight out of the box without the need for any pedals going into the front of the amp, without the need for any pedals in the loop of the amplifier. But to me, that's just not fun. I think there is something so unique and so rewarding about trying a bunch of different pedals into an amplifier in order to shape the tone to get it the way that you want it and to kind of create a signature sound signature. Because let's be honest, anybody can take an Engel Fireball and plug directly into the front of that amplifier and just make it sound extremely good. But when you take an amp that wasn't designed necessarily for modern high gain and you manipulate it to do that, you usually end up with something a little bit special and a little bit unique if you end up somehow being successful. So today, we're gonna do just that. And the amplifier that we are using in order to kind of showcase everything that I'm talking about is the PRS HDRX20. So if you're a smooth-brained idiot like me that don't know things and can't talk good, and you don't know what the HDRX series is, it was basically PRS taking Jimi Hendrix's amplifier that he actually used at Woodstock, pulling it apart and dissecting every component so that they could make the most faithful recreation of that amplifier possible. They feel they were successful in doing that, so they went ahead and they released it under the HDRX series. There's a 100 watt, there is a 50 watt, and there is a 20 watt, which is actually what we are using today. This amplifier was provided to me by my friends over at Sweetwater, so if you guys would like to pick up this amp or basically anything that I use in this video today, I'll put an affiliate link down below for the items used for you guys to pick them up if you find anything fun, interesting, or exciting. And hitting those affiliate links goes a long way in helping the channel and allowing me to do more fun, cool content like this. At least I think it's fun and cool. I'm sure there will be plenty of people who don't agree, and I will have to read their comments and cry myself to sleep in my pillow tonight. So thanks to Sweetwater for sponsoring this video. I really, really appreciate it. And as always, feel free to take everything that I have to say with a grain of salt, as this is a sponsored video and I'm being paid to share this amplifier with you guys here on the channel. More than fair to do so, but I'm gonna give you guys my honest thoughts and opinions as I always do. So let's get into the belligerence. So this amplifier, guys, is essentially a JTM style amplifier, meaning it is a very, very low gain. You get the gains by cranking the individual channel volumes, the treble, and the bass volume. If you guys are unfamiliar with old Plexi style amplifiers, old JTM amplifiers, the way that you would get the gain out of those amps was by turning them up as loud as you possibly could and getting distortion out of the phase inverter and the power section. Now, the primary downfall to non-master master volume style amplifiers is that they had to be literally like ear-bleedingly loud. Is bleedingly a word? Absolutely not. In order to get any sort of gain and saturation out of them. And honestly, today you'd be kicked out of pretty much any venue for turning any tube amp up to 10 as loud as it'll go. So thankfully PRS went ahead and they put a modern style master volume on this amplifier, so you can still crank the treble and the bass volume, which have been rolled into one single input in order to get the gain out of the amplifier, but you can control the overall output, the overall volume with a master volume. Thank the Lord. They also went ahead and tossed in a couple switches on this amplifier to give you a little bit more tweakability. One of those switches being a high-mid gain switch, which ever so slightly increases the saturation. The other switch being a bright switch that is attached to your treble volume in order to get more brightness out of it. So with all that being said, this amplifier was in no way, shape, or form ever meant to do any sort of high gain tones. It excels at your classic rock tones, your broken up rock tones, blues tones with a Strat, stuff like that, and it sounds amazing for stuff like that. So yeah, sounds really, really good for stuff like that. And also the master volume makes it so you can actually get controllable, usable volume levels out of this amplifier while cranking the gains or cranking the volumes in order to get the gain. So really, really good design there. But this is where we go ahead and we throw all of that away and we basically see if we can get this amp to serve multiple purposes that they were never meant to serve. So the way that I am structuring this little endeavor, this little video experiment today is I am essentially going to add in pedals and add in pickups or swap in guitars with higher output pickups. Slowly, I'm going to slowly increase the volume level, slowly increase the output level of the items that I am using until we essentially get this into a high gain territory. So in order to kick things off, the guitar that I'll be starting with is the PRS SE McCarty 594 here. This has their 59 style. It's like a PAF style pickup, so it's going to be very, very low output. The tones that you guys just heard, again, is me just going straight into the amplifier, no pedals. So that is our pure amp tone with just the guitar. But I'm going to direct your attention to the floor. Down here on this very sloppily thrown together pedal board, I have a number of different pedals, including a graphic EQ, a Boss Wazacraft SD1 overdrive, an ODD box overdrive, a Walrus Ages, and a Soldano Super Lead overdrive pedal. And we are essentially going to start kicking these bad boys on one by one and seeing how much gain that we can get out of the amplifier. So let's start off with an old tried and true classic. This is the Boss SD1, a very popular overdrive for vintage style amplifiers. So as you can see with the Boss, we definitely get more saturation, but we lose a lot of our low end. The only way that we can really increase the level of gain that we get from this pedal is by turning up the drive. So again, we definitely have a lot more drive going on. It sounds pretty good, but we're still very much in like the classic high gain territory. Let's go ahead, let's kick off that SD1. Let's kick in the ODD box by Warm Audio. This is basically an OCD drive copy. So as you can see, the ODD box imparts more overdrive, more saturation, and it definitely takes out less low end, so the amp sounds a little bit fuller. But again, we still are not all that saturated with just the ODD box. Moving on to the Walrus Ages, this is one of the highest output overdrives that I've ever tried, actually. right, so that definitely has gotten us the closest. By far, this pedal has an absolute ton of overdrive in it. It can cut bass if you have the bass dialed back, but we've got it dialed up a little bit so it doesn't remove too much bass. Again, just to show you guys the amp with no pedal in front. So yeah, we are slowly but surely getting there. Now, I'm going to add in what I think is one of my favorite tools for just not only increasing the overdrive on any amplifier, but really controlling the low end and how the low end reacts, because a lot of amps, if you crank up the gain too far, the amp starts to get tubby, it starts to get muddy. So not only can you increase the output signal from your guitar and from your pedal board into the amplifier, but you can also really control that low end signal and tighten things up and keep it from sounding like poo-poo doo-doo butt mud. That pedal is the 7-band graphic equalizer, and the one that I am using today is the Behringer EQ700. So as you can tell, we absolutely have a high gain tone going on. Is it a modern high gain tone? No, it's not at all, but it is definitely a high gain tone. And it only took us 2 pedals in front of a very vintagely accurate, vintage voiced amplifier in order to get there. But right now it's really bright, it's kind of harsh. Let's turn back our mid and our treble a little bit. We've got that bass still maxed out. Yeah, I mean, that is like ridiculously high gain. Now, is that a tone I'm gonna use for hardcore or for metal? Absolutely not. But if I were to start something like a stoner or a doom rock band, honestly, that's a tone that you could get away with all day long. So yeah, sounds really cool for that type of stuff, but if we're talking about an actual like chuggy metal tone, not really what I would want to go for. So let's kick off the Walrus Ages and let's see if we can combine this with the Warm Audio ODD and see if that gets us something a little bit more tight, a little bit less crazy sounding. Alright, so really cool high gain tone. Again, not something that I'm going to use for my typical high gain style of playing, but it is giving us something that is not, you know, really a sound that you get out of the box with any other amplifier. So if you're trying to supplement a more standard style high gain tone with something that sounds a little bit different, or you're just trying to search for something that's going to be just totally different in general, you can take something like this PRS HDRX20 and just boost the living hell out of it with pedals and make it something very unique, make it something your own. Alright guys, so our second guitar in our little parade of things that are unnecessary to do with a tube amp in 2024 is this Epiphone 1979 custom Adam Jones signature model. This has a Duncan distortion in the bridge, which is a very high output pickup, and you will immediately notice a difference in the tone and the output. So as you can see, it's definitely thicker, it's definitely darker, not as open as the lower output pickup. There is more compression, there's more saturation, so it's giving us a very different sound altogether. So we can kind of go in with our pedals and we can substitute for that a little bit, and we can swap out for this Boss SD1 Wazacraft. again, just with those two pedals and a more high output pickup, we've got a modern level of saturation. Like, this thing is really, really overdriving. But again, it's not quite the tone that I would go for something, you know, thrashier, punchier, a little bit more modern. So we're gonna see if we can yet get those types of tones out of this thing. We're gonna try even harder. We're gonna grab a guitar with Fishman Moderns. All right, guys, so I now have a Schecter SLS Elite E1 guitar with the Fishman Modern ceramic pickup. In the bridge, we are in the passive setting, and we still have those same two pedals on. Let's see what this baby sounds like. All right, so we are definitely getting closer to the tone that I am trying to achieve. Let's check out the controls on the amp a little bit and the switch. Here is the bright switch. Let's turn the bright switch up a little bit. A little bit, it only goes up one way. All right, so the bright switch actually does impose some brightness, or impart some brightness. It imposes it with sheer force. So what I want to do is actually pull the mids back just a tad and the treble back just a little bit. Honestly, it's getting close, man. It's closer than I honestly originally thought that it would get before I started this video. I did not do any of this off screen, any of this testing or anything. These are all my genuine reactions to these sounds. Now, not perfect, not exactly what I want, but it's crazy how close it's getting for a JTM based amplifier. So real quick, let's actually swap out the Boss SD1 Wazacraft for that Walrus audio pedal again. We're gonna have a ridiculous amount of gain. So now that we're hitting the front end of the amplifier so hard, we're gonna actually reduce the channel volumes a tad, which will bring down the gain of the amplifier a little bit. All right, we're getting way closer than I anticipated to a tone that I really, really like for the high gain, like hardcore type tone. I really like what's going on in the mids with what we have going on right now. It's just got a very raw and nasty mid-range on those open chords. Man, this is a lot of fun. I love experimenting with this stuff because that is not a tone that you're gonna get straight out of any modern high gain amplifier. So last but not least, we're throwing in a little bit of an audible. We have not yet touched the Soldano Super Lead Overdrive pedal because it's actually more of a distortion pedal than it is an overdrive, like much more in my personal opinion. So just to show you the amp, we're gonna dial it basically down to a clean tone. All right, guys, so we have the amp dialed in as you guys see it here on the screen, and this is basically dialed to complement the distortion pedal as good as we possibly can. With no pedals on, it sounds like this. Basically a clean amp with the Soldano SLO pedal on. All right, so getting closer. That distortion pedal sounds surprisingly good through this amp, I think. And finally, let's kick on that EQ, dialed in the way you see it on your screen. That is a tone that I am pretty damn happy with, honestly. This all turned out a little bit better than I was anticipating. I was not expecting to get high gain tones out of a JTM amplifier. Now I know, of course, people are gonna be mad in the comments saying, duh, you used the distortion pedal on it. Yeah, I know that, but still, not every amp lends itself to a distortion pedal. And even without the distortion pedal, we were able to combine an EQ and an overdrive for a really cool, unique tone that I was pretty happy with. So the HDRX20, really cool amp, really flexible. You can get it for your low gain dad rock tones, your blues, your Jimi Hendrix tones, obviously, or you can boost the living hell out of it like a belligerent amateur, and you can get some awesome, unique, high gain, somewhat modern tones out of it. And I just think that it's really fun to experiment like that. So if you want to pick up this amplifier, it is $899 at Sweetwater. I will leave a link down below. That's an affiliate link for the amplifier, and I'll also link to all the other stuff that I used in today's video. That way you guys can check it out for yourselves and see if it's something that you want to add to your rig in order to get more high gain belligerence out of whatever amplifier that you have. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me today, guys. I want to know what you thought down below in the comments. Do you also like tone tweaking? Do you also like experimenting like this to find new and modern and unique tones? Or do you think that I should stop spending my time and playing around with amps and messing around with tones, start practicing, and become a real guitarist? Let me know down below in the comments. Always curious to hear what you guys have to say. Again, don't forget those Sweetwater affiliate links. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was a lot of fun. I hope you had fun too. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time. Goodbye. I forgot how short my mic cable was.
You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.